With the unloved street circuits at Monaco and Detroit behind them, the Grand Prix teams have returned from America to Europe for round 6 of the 16 race World Championship Series to the Paul Ricard circuit here in southern France. And this is a return to the fast stuff. The race average today is going to be something like 120 miles an hour. And that means to say it's going to be a race where power and fuel efficiency will be at a premium. A race where, as ever, the McLaren, the Williams, the Lotus, the Benetton and the Ferrari teams will be up front making the running. And in the Drivers' World Championship, Ayrton Senna is now leading, a mere 2 points ahead of Alain Prost, with Nelson Piquet in 3rd position, Stefan Johansson is 4th, Nigel Mansell 5th with only half the points of Senna, and Gerhard Berger is in 6th place. McLaren lead the Constructors' Championship just 5 points ahead of Williams, Lotus are 3rd and Ferrari are 4th. And in the 3.5 litre category, Jonathan Palmer is leading the Drivers' Championship and Tyrrell the Constructors. Nowadays in Grand Prix racing, it seems that the engine to have is a Honda. And with me is Mr. Osamu Ogoto, who is the chief engineer of Honda. Mr. Ogoto, how many technicians do you have here looking after the two teams?
Approx always 20.
20. And what does all this sophisticated equipment around us do?
All information, engine temperature, and for example, temperature, oil temperature, water temperature, or engine control system factor we read.
And you actually get this information while the car is going round the circuit?
Exactly, say.
How does the information come from the car to these machines?
Radio from car to our equipment, and we use racing management.
And having spent millions developing their cars, the Grand Prix teams can be robbed of success by the most unlikely problems. How's this for one of them? This is the seatbelt harness buckle off Riccardo Patrese' Brabham. In the Detroit Grand Prix, his arm kept on knocking the buckle off. No safety belt, no safety, no race. Recently, the Grand Prix world has been buzzing with a rumour that Michele Alboreto, for 4 years with Ferrari, was moving in 1988.
No, I think for next year it's not possible to change. Mr. Ferrari asked me to stay in the team even in the 88, so I decided already to stay with Ferrari even next year.
Yes. A lot of English fans were looking forward to you driving for Williams next year.
Yeah, I have a good friendship with Frank, but in this moment I think there is no the condition to change.
Well, I wonder if Alboreto will be sorry about that, because here in France, in pole position is a Williams, driven, unsurprisingly, by Nigel Mansell. It is his 5th pole position out of 6 races this year. Second on the grid, world champion Alain Prost in the McLaren, and it's his first time on the front row in 1987. Very significant. Ayrton Senna is 3rd on the grid, the man who's won the last 2 races. Nelson Piquet 4th, Boutsen 5th, Gerhard Berger in the first of the 2 Ferraris 6th. Theo Fabi is 7th, Michele Alboreto is 8th, Stefan Johansson is 9th, and Derek Warwick well up 10th position in the Arrows. Martin Brundle is in 18th position on the grid. Jonathan Palmer down at 24th out of 26 stars. Everybody is in position, and the French Grand Prix is go. And Berger is left. Berger is very slow off the line. Mansell leads. Prost is 2nd. Piquet is 3rd. Senna is 4th, so Piquet has already passed Senna. And Fabi is challenging his teammate Boutsen. There's a bit of a mess at the back, but everybody is still on the move. And although Philippe Alliot is left badly on the Lola, but Nigel Mansell, as they come down the Mistral Straights, the shortened Mistral Straights, at the end of which they reach over 200 miles an hour, leads with Piquet now up into 2nd ahead of Prost.
Yes, Piquet using the power of the Honda to power his way past Prost into second place. Whilst Berger appeared to get left on the line, although he did get away in the end, it looked to me very much as if Alvaretto got a bit of a flyer. He was moving before the lights went green, certainly. It'd be interesting to see whether he gets penalised for that.
And Berger is well on the move now. Boutsen is going well in the bench, but it's the two Williams Hondas in lead positions. Mansell and then Piquet, then Prost. There is Boutsen in fifth position. And here, completing the first lap, it's Mansell, Piquet, Prost, Senna, Boutsen, Farby, and the two Brabhams are well up. And already, seemingly out of the race, is Eddie Cheever on lap 1 in the Arrows. Eddie Cheever then at a standstill and off the circuit as the rest of them come down to complete the lap and through. And Alain Prost is dropping back a bit. Stefan Johansson into the pits. Stefan Johansson in the McLaren.
Yes, well, that I saw a bit of a front wing flying around at the first corner, and it would appear to have been Stefan's. They were changing the nose on his car, so he must have had a little bit of bumping. There was a little bit of bumping midfield, but it was, in fact, quite a clean first corner for such heavy braking and right down through the gearbox.
And look at this. Look at this, surging down to the start. Mansell, Prost, Piquet.
Yes, and we saw Johansson just take a bit of a bump there in all the excitement. There goes his front wing, or one of the fins from the front wing, and that resulted in Stefan having to go into the pits, get a new nose on the car. So Mansell now will be trying to ease away from Piquet if he can, and already they've opened up a little bit of a gap to Prost.
And that is De Cesaris out of the race. Already goes De Cesaris in the Brabham.
Yes, that looks like a turbo failure, the oil burning away there. That's hopefully his partner a marshal's post, but doesn't seem anybody doing anything to put it out. Oh, finally they've arrived. But the two Williams cars showing very much the form of both practice and this morning's warm-up. They were first and second fastest this morning, and Prost looks to be struggling to hold on to them. Nelson Piquet, on the other hand, looks reasonably comfortable behind his teammate Mansell, and demoted to the position virtually of number 2 driver, although they're not technically described as number 1 or number 2, makes Piquet not a very happy man. He's quite cross about that, and he'll be very keen to put a win over Nigel Mansell today if he possibly can.
Although, of course, Piquet is considerably better off in the World Championship than his teammate. Piquet is third and Mansell is only fifth.
And Mansell, I'm sure, will be very conscious of the problems that he had in Detroit, where he was overcome by exhaustion even before half distance of the race and was getting cramped. So I'm sure he will... and that looks like Nakajima in trouble, just cruising rather slowly down. That's a pity, because if it is him, we've lost our camera car. And here is the actual start. Replay from Nakajima's car. You saw him go past the Ferrari there, that was Berger's, slow to get away. And we might see a little bit of the schmozzle at the first corner. Nakajima, again, a bit like Detroit, not really giving himself enough space under braking. But he got away with it and survived, and very late on the power there, and everybody's swarming past him.
Back to the race now. We rejoin Nakajima, who's taking a long, long time to crawl back to the pits, keeping well off the racing line to avoid the possibility of laying oil, if there is any coming out. So Mansell through. You can see visually the gap on lap 10, which is 1/8 distance in this round 6 out of 16 of the World Championship. Nigel Mansell desperately needing the points to stay in contention, because he has only half the points of World Championship leader Ayrton Senna at the moment. 12 for Mansell, 24 for Senna. The Englishman looking in good shape. There's his teammate Piquet, and the gap between Piquet second and Prost third is about the same as between Piquet second and Mansell. There he is, the race leader. So the Hondas are good and strong. And once again, you can see that the right wing at the front of Johansson's McLaren has been flattened, and he will have to come into the pits yet again. And let's hope they've got another nose cone. He's being lapped by the third place man, Alain Prost, as the leaders go through. There is Mansell. Piquet is about to lap the 3.5-litre Lola of Philippe Alliot. In fact, he has done so. Then there are the two McLarens, one of them on the same lap as Nigel Mansell, which is now lap 13, and the other, of course, that of Stefan Johansson, has been lapped. And it's still Mansell, Piquet, Prost, Senna, Boutsen, Fabi, the first six. Patrese is 7th, Alboreto is 8th, Arnoux is 9th, Warwick is still 10th, Berger in the Ferrari is 11th, and Nannini, excellent in the Minardi, is in 12th place.
Prost just trying to power his way past the 3.5-litre car. And that was the gap at the end of the previous lap between the two Williamses, and Prost still struggling to get by. But with a decent straight, no problem at all. So Johansson, most unhappy afternoon for him. He did his left front wing on the first corner, as we saw, and now he's done his right front wing. We didn't see how he managed to do it, but and there he is in the pits. Let's just hope McLaren's have got another spare nose with number 2 on for him. And they're giving him a tyre change while they're about it.
And a lot of people, of course, when they see tyres being slapped on the car, think they've worn out, and that is far from the case. It is conventional now, whenever a car comes into the pits for whatever the reason, to slap a new set of tyres on it. It doesn't do any harm, and it doesn't take any longer, but in the process it can give the wrong impression that the tyres have gone. And as you can see, Piquet now on lap 14 is making a charge and is very, very much closer to race. In fact, he's right with race leader Nigel Mansell.
Yes, that's right. Mansell's having a bit of trouble with the traffic there because, of course, the 3.5-litre cars, although very much slower on the long straights, are very nimble and quick through the corners, and so they're very difficult to lap, and that gave Nelson a chance to close up. It's also given Prost a bit of a chance to close the gap. And I do think that Nelson is quite comfy following Mansell. It's harder work to do the leading and let him make the running and sit there for the time being, because this race is going to be won and lost really in the second half. It's going to be about timing of the tyre stops and then the second half of the race. Piquet will probably be trying to conserve fuel at the moment, try and build himself up a little bit of a margin, a bit spare, but he's really pounding Nigel now. Yeah, going back to the tyres, as Murray was saying, it's normal to slap a new set on any time a car comes into the pits for any work, but of course the reason for that is that the tyres are at their very best when they're brand new, and the level of performance gradually drops, not very much. Nigel having to defend his position there, breaking down the inside, and Prost is right up with them too. So, at long last, we've got our first real race, it looks like, of 1987. We've had some fairly processional races, sadly, hitherto. And Prost will be disappointed that he didn't manage to get past the normally aspirated car, but he's having a dive down the inside there. So Prost makes it. He didn't want to be stuck behind it throughout the infield. So the newer the set of tyres, the better the level of performance, and it makes sense if you're in the pits, going to be in the pits with other work being done for more than 10 seconds, to slap a new set on.
Coming through to complete lap 16 shortly, Patrese into the pits. This is his 150th Grand Prix. To celebrate it, a superb cake which has been consumed. But up front, a titanic battle now developing between the two Williams. There they are, followed by Alain Prost, who has made up a 2-second gap and is now with previous French Grand Prix winner Piquet and previous French Grand Prix winner last year, Nigel Mansell. The three top men in Grand Prix racing these days. Piquet has been accused by a lot of people of losing motivation this season, notwithstanding the fact that he's third in the World Championship. There's Prix getting away out of the pits in the very pretty-looking Brabham with its BMW 4-cylinder turbocharged engine. But Mansell leads. Number 5, Williams Honda, Nigel Mansell, pole position in 5 of 6, 87 Grand Prix, over the line. Mansell, Piquet, Prost. Now look for the yellow Lotus of Senna. There it is in the background in 4th position. He has lapped Jonathan Palmer, Boutsen, and there, you see, nearly off. And that's at that very difficult right-hander at the end of the pit straight. Now, how has that affected Alain Prost? Well, there is Mansell. Prost is up to second with Piquet half spinning on the right-hander there. Let's look at the replay.
Yes, bad mistake by Piquet. He just locked the left side of the car, and really there was no reason to do that. He wasn't under pressure from Prost, particularly, or not under immediate threat at that corner. And that looked like just a straightforward lapse of concentration. He locked his right rear, which got the car going. He half spun it. No long-term damage other than dropping a place to Alain Prost, who was able just to nip through as Nelson swung wide.
And Patrese into the pits again. This is the second time that the Italian has come into the pits in the Brabham. And Martin Brundle in the Zach Speed is in the pits as well, as you look at Alain Prost now second, sandwiched between the two Williams, still with Senna, now 9, nearly 10 seconds, as you see. And I suspect now that if Senna is being tactical, he will need to watch it very carefully as Prost closes, and Mansell now is coming up behind Ghinzani in the revised Ligier.
Yeah, well, there's no way Senna can be tactical here by letting the leaders get away. It's not like the street circuits at all. I think, quite honestly, that the Lotus just isn't quite on the pace, and Senna's just going to have to look for a reliable run and hope that that he can make up something with good tactics on the pits. Of course, the Lotus is pretty kind to tyres as well, so Lotus would be hoping to get away with a maximum of 1 pit stop and maybe even try and go the distance to make up ground in that way. Because whereas at the street circuits he could let Mansell go off and do the hard work and then gradually build up his speed, having looked after his tyres, this race is very much a sprint from start to finish. And it looks like those three are the ones in it. Now there's somebody missing a wheel. That's Martin Brundle's Zach Speed. Now he'd been into the pits a moment ago, which makes one suspect that one of the rear wheels, that rear wheel that's missing, didn't go on properly. So, and that is exactly what happened. That's a replay of Brundle's Zach Speed, and it looks to me as if he went in, had a wheel change, went out, and the right rear, I would presume, wasn't done up because he'd only got that to the first corner he got to.
Lap 22, and somebody in the Zach Speed team will be getting the German equivalent of his cards. I wouldn't be surprised at the end of today.
And Prost really pressing Mansell now, but still not actively looking for a way round him. And the Williams, it won't be easy for Prost to pass Mansell, so he won't be in any undue hurry to do that, because the Williams is, if anything, a little bit quicker on the straight, as we saw on the first lap when Nelson Piquet powered past Prost up the back straight, and so Prost will not be able to get into the toe and slipstream his way past. He's going to have to try and force a mistake out of Mansell somewhere. Mansell likewise will be aware of that and will be driving defensively and be very careful not to make any mistakes.
And I still believe that none of these three is really pressing. They're holding a station, because I remind you that fuel is critical in this race. All three of them will be watching their computerized fuel readout counters and making sure that they are driving at a speed which will ensure that they've got enough fuel to finish. Out goes the signal from the Williams pit with the Union Jack to indicate that it's Mansell's board. Piquet's has a Brazilian flag, and there's David Stubbs in the background.
That's one of the Zach speeds. And that is Christian Danner. I don't know what he's doing off the prepared surface, but probably just parking with some sort of mechanical problem. That's Ginzani there, back in his garage. He's out of the race.
Lap 30 and tyre changes and the time they take are going to be absolutely critical then in this race, with the first three so closely together, and the first tyre change for the leaders must come shortly. They're going to make certainly one stop. I remind you that both Mansell and Piquet last year uniquely made two, because Patrick Head, the Williams designer, who is not here incidentally, presumably watching us now, calculated, and correctly so, that they would benefit more from fresh rubber twice than they would lose.
And Piquet went for the pits then. You just saw him coming out of the last corner, moving over to the right-hand side of the road. So Piquet, as you absolutely correctly predicted, Murray, has come in just as you called it. So Piquet in for his first set of tyres at least. He's just wiping his visor, having followed those cars, and a pretty good stop, as we've come to expect from the Williams team. Not their very best, but not bad at all. Question is, has Piquet been able to get out in front of Senna, which I doubt.
And now Senna and Boutsen are ahead of Piquet as a result of the Brazilians' stop, and on lap 32, with Piquet having made his tyre stop, Mansell leads Prost, and that's the gap between them visually. Senna is third, Boutsen is fourth, Piquet is in fifth position, Theo Fabi is in sixth position, Berger is in seventh place, and Mansell has lapped everybody now up to Berger. That's how fast the Englishman is driving. Very, very quickly indeed. He comes through to complete his 32nd lap. Prost right behind him.
And here comes Senna. So Ayrton Senna coming in for his tyre stop. He needs to open that visor for a moment. It gets so hot, inside, even inside the crash helmet. And not a bad pit stop, but not as good as they would have liked. Anything over 10 seconds these days is considered to be mediocre. That's Boutsen.
Yes, Thierry Boutsen, who was in, fourth position, and now he is out of the race to join the other retirees. Eddie Cheever out, De Cesaris out, Brundle out, Patrese out, Danner out, Ginzani out, Boutsen now out. Into the pits has gone Piquet, and here is the battle for the lead continuing on lap 33. Still Mansell, tight up behind him, indeed underneath his wing. This is going to be Prost's opportunity to go for the lead.
Yes, it does appear that Prost has got a lot more grip than Nigel Mansell. I suspect it's the old story that the Williams is harder on tyres and wears them faster, gets them hotter than the McLaren. But once again, you see how he stretches that down the straight, but there's a back marker ahead, which is just what Alan Prost wants, and you'll see that he'll keep as close as he possibly can at this stage. The Nigel Mansell, they go around the long, tightening up right-hander through the very quick flick S. And Prost is ready to jump on any problem that Mansell gets. And he has to go around the back marker. Prost doesn't really want to pass him on the straight. He wants him to hold him up through a corner. The trouble is that passing spots are quite few and far between on this circuit, unless you've got... And Prost into the pit. Prost goes in for his tyres. So, Mansell, therefore, the last of the front runners to make his tyre stop. Now, this is vital for McLaren. They can get Prost out into the lead if they're quick enough on the stop. And it's a superb stop. So, Prost, of course, won't be in the lead for a while, but he ought to be by virtue of that, when Mansell stops, unless the Williams team can match that stop. So Prost goes out just behind Piquet, which will be a great shame for him, because he really would have wanted Piquet behind him. Because of this extra power of the Williams Honda, he'll have trouble getting past him. And that is Johansson just being passed there by Nelson Piquet, and that showed you just how superior in straight line speed the Williams Honda is over the McLaren tag, and that will be a great disappointment to Alain Prost to have not been able to get to that first corner before Piquet.
René Arnoux in the pits. Is he going to join his teammate? It looks like it, because off comes the cover. But meantime, it is Mansell leading on lap 35, yet to make his pit stop. There is the second place man, Nelson Piquet, who has stopped. Here is Mansell. Mansell into the pits on lap 35. Now, the quickest stop we have so far is 7.02 seconds, that of Alain Prost. This is going to be the most important pit stop of the race, and it's already slower, but 9 seconds for Nigel Mansell on lap 36. And this is going to be really interesting because Piquet leads.
Yes, well, they've done, the two Williams have swapped places. It's very much as it was before, with Alain Prost, his McLaren, being the filling in the Williams sandwich. And news has just finally reached us that, remember, we spotted Michele Alboreto taking a bit of a flyer at the start, and he has finally, or he has been penalised a minute.
Well, there's a long way to go yet, and Mansell is right up with Prost. He's coming out of his slipstream. He's going to try to go through on the inside, and he does it. Up behind and through Nakajima. Nakajima pulls wide in the Lotus Honda and lets Mansell in the Williams Honda go through. He, in turn, takes the... As Piquet goes through and takes the Tyrrell, there is the battle for second and third. Mansell and Prost down to third position. Meantime, Ayrton Senna, the Brazilian, is still in fourth place. Berger is in fifth position. Alboreto is in sixth place, but remember, he's been penalised a minute, and that means to say that effectively Farby will be in seventh place. And as you see, Nigel Mansell has put up the fastest lap of the race, but it's nearly 2 seconds slower. That is Berger's Ferrari in the pits. On lap 41, as you look at race leader Piquet, the order is Piquet leading Mansell by some 3.5 seconds. Prost is third, Senna is fourth, Berger is in fifth position, and in sixth position is still Teo Farby because of the minute penalisation that Alboreto had. And Mansell definitely closing now. Did you see the way he took the Ferrari on the inside there? Beautiful bit of driving. He's got the bit well and truly between his teeth, has Nigel Mansell in this French Grand Prix. He's definitely closing on Piquet, but Piquet, a tremendously seasoned campaigner, because he is now in his 132nd Grand Prix. There have, in fact, been rumours that he might be retiring at the end of the season. Not confirmed by Piquet, I hasten to say. And how is the fuel going? How are the tyres going of the two Williams Hondas? They're pulling away now from Prost. The gap is 7 seconds. Senna is still in fourth position, but over half a minute now behind this riveting battle for the lead between the two Williams Hondas of double world champion Nelson Piquet and the man who just missed the world championship by a whisker in the Australian Grand Prix last year, Nigel Mansell. Let's enjoy this. They're almost at the end of the lap, and that will be the end of their 45th lap. Each has got some 850 horsepower in race trim under his foot. And I've said this many, many times before. I will say it again because it is just as relevant. It is one thing for Nigel Mansell to catch Nelson Piquet. It will be quite another to pass him. He could, of course, turn the turbo boost up and rocket past his teammates by a sudden injection of extra horsepower, but he would do it at the expense of consuming more fuel. And race driving these days is not just a question of foot hard to the boards and go flat out for the whole race, or as near to it as you can. It is a question of driving with your brains as well as your feet. And through goes Nigel Mansell. Piquet tries to hold him back. Lovely bit of driving. Nigel Mansell takes the lead on the 46th lap.
That was a superb piece of driving by Nigel Mansell, and he really caught Nelson napping there. That was, he made no move to protect himself from that manoeuvre. Mansell saw the gap and took it gratefully and very, very well. There we see it again. Mansell just nipped down inside him, and before Piquet knew what was going on, it was too late. There was nothing he could do about it.
There's Frank Williams in his wheelchair, who is in contact, of course, with Nigel Mansell. You can see the earphones that Frank is swearing, and he has this lever device strapped to his left thigh, which enables him to activate the microphone and talk to Mansell. The Mistral straight, and Piquet is challenging now. He could be on the tail of Mansell by the end of this lap and shaping up to try and take the lead. There are the Honda engineers looking at all their telemetry equipment. And Mansell just weaving a bit there. Now, I hope I'm not creating drama where none exists, but Nigel seems to be driving a bit more raggedly, or a bit raggedly, in comparison to the way he's been driving in the past. Up on the curbs a couple of times.
And, well, and there goes Piquet. That was Piquet peeling off to the pit, so Nelson's decided he wants tyres. I presume it's just tyres. He's coming in very quickly indeed. Now, he's not going to be able to get out in front of Prost either. So are they all going to go for another stop? Well, we saw them say tyres okay on Mansell's board. Interestingly, will Nigel go in? And this is a bad stop. They've got some problem around the back of the car. I think maybe he stalled the engine. It looked like they put the outboard starter onto it.
That stop could well have cost, indeed, I think probably has cost Nelson Piquet his chance of winning.
Yes, well, the team got the tyres changed in normal time in well under 10 seconds, and it looked to me like they'd put the starter onto the back of the engine, and if that is the case, then it goes back to what I was saying earlier, because the only way the engine can stall is by a lack of concentration on Piquet's part.
And that is the Ferrari of Michele Alboreto out of the race. So retirements, the major retirements so far, as Michele, sadly, and there's Prost and Piquet, second and third. Coming up behind Berger's Ferrari, and Berger is in 5th position. Prost second now on 6 points.
And Piquet's put in a real scorcher. That was a 1 minute 9.5 lap, so that's a new fastest lap of the race for Nelson Piquet. And that's what's brought him right up onto Prost's tail. Now the fresh tyres, of course, will give him a lot more grip. I don't think he'll be able to catch Mansell in the time available, but with his straight-line speed, I don't think Prost will be any problem for him to gobble up. He's having a look down the inside, but he only really has to wait round this twisty section till he gets to the pits, and Prost, in fact, has let him go. So Prost is in trouble. Prost has slowed right down, and you see there, Prost moved over and made room, but he's obviously in some sort of trouble. Will we see him come in? No, he's staying out there.
There's Piquet. It's almost 2 seconds a lap gain. There's 7 laps left. It's going to be a very, very close run thing. And if Piquet can maintain this speed, there's going to be some interesting dialogue going on between Frank Williams and Nigel Mansell, race leader. 72 laps completed. Here he is. And the race order: Mansell, Piquet, Prost, Senna. Barbie is in 5th position. That's Berger in the pits, who was in 6th place, which means to say now that Johansson will go up into 6th position. And I'm going to say now something that not many people would have thought it wise to say just a couple of years ago, and that is that I have little doubt that number 5, Nigel Mansell, is now a better driver than double world champion Nelson Piquet, who he has consistently out-qualified this year and is now on his way to winning for the second time in 1987. The seconds are ticking away. Piquet goes past me, and the gap is increasing again now. It's up to 14 seconds. Piquet has definitely shot his bolt.
What's and there's a pirouetting Ferrari, very elegant.
It's a pirouetting Berger, Gerhard Berger in the Ferrari, as Nigel Mansell on his 79th lap comes through shortly to start his 80th and last, having won in San Marino. He's going to add 9 points to the 12 that he already has.
And there is Johansson out of his McLaren. So Johansson, a pretty unhappy day for him.
So there is the race leader and virtually certain winner, because Nigel Mansell, who has driven an absolutely immaculate race, is on his 80th lap, his 190th mile, as he comes up and surges past the Benetton, going very slowly indeed, and that will be Farby in danger of losing his 5th position.
So a fine win coming up for Nigel Mansell. He's had a bit of a thin period recently in terms of getting the results and the points on the board, but this time he's done it. And Nelson Piquet drove a good race, gave us a lot of entertainment battling with his teammate and of course with Prost in the early stages, but something went wrong in his second pit stop, which made the gamble not pay, leaving Mansell too big a lead for Nelson to do anything about.
Almost home. Second Grand Prix win. 32-year-old Nigel Mansell from Port Erin in the Isle of Man waves his fist, wins the French Grand Prix for the second year in succession, and is now very much back into contention with the World Championship.
So, a magnificent second victory of the year for Nigel Mansell, with in second place Nelson Piquet, third Alain Prost, and in fourth position Ayrton Senna. Fifth, Theo Farby. Sixth, and winning the 3.5 litre category, Philippe Streff. And Jonathan Palmer finished seventh. In the Drivers' Championship, Ayrton Senna is still leading, just 1 point ahead of Alain Prost, who is 2 points ahead of Nelson Piquet. Nigel Mansell is fourth, but only 6 points behind the leader. The Constructors' Championship is now led by Williams, 6 points ahead of McLaren, with Lotus in third place.
Yeah, I feel very tired, but very happy because the team did a fantastic job. Everything worked well. As you saw, it wasn't easy, but it was the result that we needed.
Now, Nelson decided to come in for a second tyre stop. You had 2 this year, but you opted to go through with just 1 stop this year. Why was that?
It was a tough decision. We did a lot of full tank running, and I planned with my engineer, and I spoke with Patrick Head on the phone as well in England, and with Frank Williams, and we decided that we could possibly do it. If we could get to lap 35 on the first set of tyres, we should be able to get to the end of the race on the next set.
Nelson got right up to you within a few laps of the end of the race. Were you turning up the boost, or were you just being quite ruthless about the line you took?
No, I mean, obviously I got a bit of a cushion when he made his second pit stop, but I mean, the Honda engine worked beautifully. I mean, the only problem I had was at the end of the race when the tyres were a little worn out. I was getting wheel spin in first, second, third and fourth up the straights, and that was a bit concerning. But everything worked well. Tyres were great, the Honda engine worked great, and the Williams car was fabulous.
And the Mansell leg worked great, did it, which it didn't in Detroit?
Yeah, Mansell legs are all right, but the hands hurting this time because the only problem I had was my gear knob came undone towards the end of the race, and every time I went to the gear, the knob was in a different position. But I'm delighted. We had a few problems, we still won, and as I said, you've just got to be positive, and the luck's going to change, and you know, the main thing is we got 9 points today.
Yes. Now, when this race started, you only had half the points of the championship leader, 12 to 24. Now you are still in fourth place, but only 6 points behind. Next weekend, Nigel, you could be leading the World Championship.
Well, that's what happened last year, didn't it? I mean, with all the British crowd, I mean, it's fantastic that it's my home Grand Prix next week, and probably a few more people might get out of bed on Sunday morning and come and watch the race now. But I'd just like to thank them in advance for their support, for all the British drivers, not only myself, and I'm just looking forward to Silverstone and the British Grand Prix like crazy.
Needless to say, Grand Prix